I speak to you in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Ring the bells that still can ring. Forget your perfect offering. There's a crack in everything, and that's how the light gets in. And from St. Paul, from the beginning till now, the whole creation has been groaning in one great act of giving birth. Creation still hopes of being freed. It's not for any fault of its own that it was made unable to fulfill its purpose. It was made so by God. We know that by turning everything to their good, God cooperates with all those who love him. With God on our side, who can ever be against us? Nothing can come between us and the love of God. If you look hard at Romans chapter 8, you're going to see that Paul teaches us that we live in an imperfect world by God's design. It's made imperfect for a purpose. According to St. Paul, one day all of creation will be liberated. And we are to wait for that. But there's purpose to the imperfections in creation. It's a very deep purpose, one that wraps up love and delivers it to all living things. There's a magnificent guarantee for the cosmos that all things will work together for good for those who have the wisdom to love God. Leonard Cohen, one of Canada's greatest poets, lost his father when he was only 9 years old. And I think that affected him, particularly his melancholy. I love that deep, gravelly voice. You can find it on the internet with his songs. Seems to speak directly to our problem of angst. Melancholy, strident, prophet-like, Cohen seems to be able to connect directly to the pain in our souls. Some of Cohen's reviewers say that Cohen's religious insights speak of a long and difficult spiritual odyssey, so difficult that it left Cohen literally wiped out. Cohen himself said, "I had a lot of versions of myself that I used religion to support. If you deal with this material, you just can't put God on. I thought I could spread light, and I could enlighten my world and those around me, and I thought I could, but I was unable to. This is a landscape in which people far stronger than you, far braver, far nobler and kinder, more generous, people of extremely high achievement have burnt to a crisp on this road. Once you start to deal with sacred material, you get creamed." You know, Cohen, in my view, is a little too hard on himself. He's got these marvelous insights. I think his anthem is in a league all by itself. In just a few words, he sums up the Judeo-Christian heritage that to some degree still undergirds our society. He begins with creation. "The birds, they sang at break of day." He hears them say, "Start again. Don't dwell on what has passed away, on what is yet to be." So I want to ask you this morning, have you ever had a massive blow in your life? A marriage crash, an infidelity, a daughter dying before her mother, some broken dream, unexpected loss of someone you love more than life? Has something sundered your world and made you feel broken? Simon and Garfunkel, "When you're weary, feeling small, when tears are in your eyes, when times get rough and friends just can't be found, when you're down and out, when you're on the street, when evening falls so hard, oh, when darkness comes and pain is all around." Now, I remember being in England researching my PhD thesis. I was staying in a rundown hotel. It was all I could afford. And there was a heating element, which I touched by accident, and I burned my hand badly. I was also suffering from food poisoning from a shrimp dish eaten the night before, and now I was deathly ill. But early in the morning, in this urban wasteland, suddenly I heard it outside my window. The birds began to sing. Their song was full of an irrepressible joy, full of the glory of creation. Blackbird had spoken like the first bird. The birds announced the new day. Of course they were saying, "Start again, David." At any time we hear birdsong, we can hear the message. Don't dwell on what's passed away, on what is yet to be. Start again. Today's world, with major wars going on in the Ukraine and Palestine and Israel and Africa, Jesus' words in Matthew 24 sound a lot like Cohen and St. Paul confronting catastrophe. Jesus said, "You're going to hear of wars and rumors of wars. Don't be alarmed. This is something that must happen. For nation will fight against nation, kingdom against kingdom. There will be famines, earthquakes, here and there. All this is but the beginning of the birth pangs." St. Paul says the entire creation groans in the one great act of giving birth. Cohen says the wars, they're going to be fought again. The holy dove be caught again, bought and sold and bought again. Do you remember the story of Christ in the temple? He overturned the tables of those who sold the holy doves for sacrifice. Do you remember the Holy Spirit of God descending as a dove on Jesus at his baptism? Jesus, who was far stronger, far braver, far nobler, far kinder than we are, was burnt to a crisp on the Via Dolorosa road. The dove is never free. But then comes Cohen's chorus. Ring the bells that still can ring. Look around you. There are bells that are lost and broken and will never ring again. Don't look to them. Don't look at what you've lost. Look at what you've got left. You know, the largest bell in the world is in Russia. It's heavily cracked and broken. It's never going to ring again. But the second largest bell, though still able to ring, was silenced. When Gorbachev's revolution took place, part of his reforms was the legalization of church bells in Russia. Suddenly, the great bells of St. Basil's in Red Square were allowed to be rung. They're right in front of the Kremlin. Lenin had silenced them in 1919. Well, one morning, an old babushka was crossing Red Square when the magnificent bells from St. Basil's pealed out for the first time in over a half a century. The old babushka, startled, stopped, and then the tears began to fall at the sound that she had first heard when a little girl. Ring the bells that still can ring. Start again. Don't you give up. Look not at what you've lost, but what you've got left. You know, Cohen is aware that the problem that we all wrestle with is this challenge of an imperfect world. We wish passionately that things were different. But Cohen says, don't go there. Forget your perfect offering. Drop your perfectionism. St. Paul would agree. He says we need to drop our perfectionism and disappointment with the world because the universe was made this way by God. Why? There's a crack in everything. That's how the light of God gets into us. It's through our suffering, through our pain, through our disappointments that God is able to reach us and transform us, because these things show us our need of God. If there is no crack, no light gets in, no development of the soul, no spiritual growth, no lasting happiness that's deep, no triumph over tragedy, no hope, beginning on the other side of despair. Cohen says we won't find redemption in governments. Cohen was betrayed. The signs of God have been sent. Jesus was betrayed. In Cohen's poetry, the government is in widowhood. Why? Because there are killers in high places. They start wars. Some piously say their prayers, but Cohen says that their behavior should summon up in us a thundercloud response. Cohen says we're not going to figure the world out. You can add up the parts, but you won't have the sum. Cohen closes his verse with the same theme that drives Romans 8. Every heart to love will come, but like a refugee. St. Paul, all things work together for good to those who love God. Cohen spent hours and hours and hours on his anthem. It was not a quick write. We need each of us in our daily lives, when we are down and when we are discouraged, to hear his liberating words. In your life, ring the bells that still can ring. In your life, forget the perfect offering. There's a crack in everything, and that's how the light gets in. Amen.